Hello, welcome back to NPC Stories. This week we are talking about inns. Inns and innkeepers tend to come in all shapes and sizes, and there's usually at least one in every city or town. Inns tend to become the center of operations for your party during their stay in the area, and the innkeeper is a character that they're almost guaranteed to run into. Inns are your party's home away from home, if they even still have a home. I have 2 inns and 6 NPCs to get through today, so let's get started. The Dawn House is not a particularly remarkable inn. 2 stories made of wood and stone with a small stable out back, the main room doubles as a bright and cheery tavern. Previously it was owned by a man named Tanner Two-Bite, who found himself with a case of the wrong place, wrong times that got him murdered. He left the inn to his wife, Libby. Libby has blonde hair that she always keeps tied up out of her face. She's average height with green eyes and fair skin. She might have been beautiful in her younger days, not that she is particularly old, but the stress of running the inn by herself and being a single mother has certainly taken its toll on her appearance. She wears simple cotton dresses with an apron, and her 2-year-old son, Tanner Jr., is always clinging to her skirts or perched on her hip. Livy never wanted to be a business owner, but the inn was her husband's and she wants to keep his legacy alive. She is a hard worker, a great multitasker, and tries her best to make everybody feel like they're at home. Her husband's death still haunts her and makes her at best cautious and at worst paranoid about everyone's safety. The barkeep at the Dawn House is Ray Redbasher. He practically grew up with Tanner Sr. and has been working the bar since he was tall enough to see over it. He is broad and strong, but not without the slight pudge that comes from middle age. He has brown hair, brown eyes, and wears common clothes that are clean enough. Ray is an easygoing fellow, happy to chat with his patrons or let them sit in silence. He watches over Livy like a brother, but can't help his growing attraction for her, which of course makes him feel tremendously guilty, as she was his best friend's wife. Tanner Jr. refers to him as Rah-Rah, and if he becomes too much of a handful for Livy, Ray isn't opposed to babysitting. Prescott Crowdown is the Dawn House's stable boy. This young man is the runaway son and heir of a noble family. He never found his time in court to be pleasant, much preferring the company of horses and other animals that talk less. Eventually the pressure became too much for him and he fled. He found work at the Dawn House about a year ago and happily lives and works in the stables. His greatest fear is that someday someone will find him and drag him back to be the lord that he was born to be. Prescott is tall and slender, with brown hair turned blonde and light skin turned tan by all of his time in the sun. He has blue eyes and has happily traded the fine clothing of a noble for the more comfortable common clothes, which normally smell of horses and hay. Prescott is painfully awkward and hates responsibility. He tries to keep his interactions with people to a minimum, although he will express admiration if they do bring in a particularly beautiful mount. The Gilded Eagle Hotel and Aerie are as fancy as they sound. The 2 large buildings are connected by a single hallway and take up an entire city block. The Gilded Eagle is 2 stories tall and crafted of the finest and most expensive woods and stones. The interior is clean, warm, inviting, and luxurious. A large mahogany desk hosts the concierge, who will happily check you in, as long as you look like you can afford it. The Aerie is a circular building made of equally lavish materials, but painted with colorful and eye-catching designs. The interior is equally colorful and full of exotic scents and sights. Scantily clad women and men serve expensive wines and cheeses to patrons sprawled across piles of cushions. Other, more personal services can be provided in the curtained alcoves surrounding the central chamber. Janus Titan is the proud owner of both businesses. The youngest son of a noble, he knew he would inherit nothing, and so made plans to make his own fortune. He had many well-off connections that were eager to support his business, and his club and hotel have grown quite popular among the elite. Janus is average height, middle-aged, with black hair that has absolutely no gray in it. He has green eyes, naturally tan skin, and a figure that relays how little he's actually had to work in his life. He is a vain man and decorates himself with only the finest clothing and jewelry. Janus is overly pleasant if he thinks you have money, and wants you to stay as far away from him as possible if he thinks you don't. He is convinced that poverty is contagious and takes great pride in his money and power. His abundance of connections can be used for whatever he needs them for, whether that is eliminating a threat or rewarding someone who has done him a service. Reza Fire Rays is the concierge and works the front desk at the Gilded Eagle. She lives an average life but wants more from it and loves working among the elite as she gets a taste of their lifestyle. Reza is pretty, which is how she got the job in the first place, with red gold hair, hazel eyes, and a slender figure. She owns one finely made dress and always wears it to work, as it is the only dress that Janus approves of. While working at the Eagle, she is quiet and polite, deferring to Janus on any decisions that need to be made. Outside the Eagle, she is loud and fun-loving, but still vain and egotistical. Bexalem Sanio is the master of the Eyrie. The son of a baker, he grew up with very little, but always wanted much, much more. He traveled the world seeking the ultimate pleasures of life, and made his fortune by pleasing others. Once his fortune had grown enough, he returned to his hometown to share with everyone all of the pleasures that he had discovered. While it is Janus that owns the Eyrie, Bexalem makes most of the aesthetic decisions. Bexalem's fondness for the exotics are reflected in his appearance. His black hair is streaked with dark violet that match his unusually colored eyes. He is tall and muscled, though he has started to let himself go a little bit, with dark skin. He prefers to dress in the finest exotic styles of the places he traveled to, with lots of bright colors and revealing flashes of skin. Bexalem is bold and demonstrative when he speaks, easily commanding the attention of the entire room. He is friendly to everyone that enters the Eyrie. Initially. He is neither vain nor greedy like Janus, but believes in the power of beauty and pleasure. Of course, he does have bills to pay, so if you're not going to buy something, stop wasting his time. There you are, 2 inns and 6 NPCs. None of these guys have a class, so I did manage to fit all of the characters per inn on one sheet. They are down in the doobly-doo. As always, I hope this was somehow helpful or inspiring to you. You can let me know by liking this video, or you can find me on Twitter at NPC Stories. If you want to see more NPCs in the future, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Join me next week as we talk royalty.